welcome to the Republicans' White Pride rally disguised as a congressional hearing. It might be uncomfortable for some people on this committee to hear about the true history of America, and I hate that for them, but facts are facts. And it's a fact that there is a violent, exclusionary, discriminatory, sexist, and racist part of American history, where our indigenous populations were forcibly displaced from their land, where thousands of Black people were unjustly lynched, where Black people were denied the right to vote, and they still trying to do it today, where women needed their husband's permission to open a bank account, where people with disabilities were routinely excluded from schools, workplaces, and public life, where 4 little Black girls were murdered by the KKK at the 16th Street Baptist Church. And a lot of this wasn't that long ago. In fact, 3 of those little girls would be 77 and 1 would be 74. More than 40 members of Congress serving right now would be older than them. Ruby Bridges, who was the first Black child to desegregate an all-white school, is only 71 years old. More than 100 members of Congress serving right now are older than her. So attacks on the Smithsonian or any other institution that's willing to tell the true history of America is not only an attempt to rewrite history, it's an attempt to erase history. So
That is the central accusation in this clip, and Crockett doesn't soften it. She's not framing this as a small disagreement over curriculum or museum wording. She's making it clear. This is about who controls the narrative of American history and what gets remembered versus what gets erased. Once it's framed that way, this is no longer about a single exhibit or lesson plan. It becomes a much bigger fight over whether the most uncomfortable parts of America's past are allowed to remain visible at all.
Blight. If Republicans are going to ban books, penalize schools and universities, attack museums, if states continue to change curriculum, where do Americans go to learn about the complicated, sometimes racist and violent parts of American history?
Thank you for the question. I think they will have to keep going to the same institutions, and we have to keep fighting to preserve what we are doing in those institutions. They have to keep going to public schools. They have to keep going to their public libraries. They have to keep going to the great Smithsonian. Look, the purpose of history is to enlighten us, inspire us, trouble us, bother us, sometimes make us angry. I find it hard to believe that a young person could go through the Museum of American history and not come out at least inspired with the single most important thing, a sense of the past, a sense of history. Americans have to keep going to those places they trust. We have to keep those institutions trustworthy.
That response matters because it completely flips the premise of the attack. The defense here isn't that history should feel comfortable, it's the opposite. Public institutions exist to tell the truth, even when that truth is unsettling. Dr. Blight's point is simple but powerful. History is not meant to protect feelings. It's meant to confront reality, challenge us, and teach us. So if museums and libraries are making people uncomfortable, that may actually be evidence that they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
Thank you so much. In fact, that takes me to Dr. Hardick. They accuse you and the Smithsonian of sowing division in this country. However, before the White House deleted it, the Departments of Justice and Homeland Security found the biggest domestic threat to the United States is violent white supremacists. So I have a couple of questions for you. First, to the best of your knowledge, has the museum ever been linked to any violent act that has occurred in the United States or against the U.S. government?
Thank you, ma'am. Not to the best of my knowledge.
I don't think
this is where Crockett really turns up the pressure. There's a repeated claim in this hearing that being honest about race and history somehow divides the country. So she cuts through the rhetoric with a direct challenge. Point to a single act of violence linked to these institutions or one artifact that genuinely tears the country apart. The answer? There isn't one. And that matters. It exposes a clear gap between the accusations and the actual evidence. The outrage sounds loud, but when it's tested, it collapses quickly.
Many of these white supremacists can even read, but to the best of your knowledge, can you identify a single artifact in your museum that would divide the country?
To the best of my knowledge, ma'am, no. I hope that they unite the country through a shared understanding of our past.
Do you think, or do you ask the political affiliation of any of your employees before you hire them?
Absolutely not, ma'am. It's against the Hatch Act of 1939.
I'm glad that you know the law, but nevertheless. Do you ask if they've donated to political campaigns?
Absolutely not, ma'am. It's against the Hatch Act of 1939.
We need a briefing in this building, but nevertheless, do you only hire non-white people?
No, ma'am.
In fact, almost 60% of the Smithsonian's total workforce is men, and more than 50% is white. 90% of Smithsonian employees making senior level pay are white, and 60% of them are men. I don't understand this fetish that these white guys with fragile egos have with trying to feel oppressed.
This is the most decisive moment in the exchange, where Crockett shifts from defending to going on offense. After being pressed on hiring and political bias, she counters with the museum's own workforce data. Her argument is blunt. Claims of anti-white discrimination are being made against an institution whose leadership is still largely white. In her view, this isn't about real exclusion. It's about reframing discomfort as victimhood the moment the conversation stops centering them.
Reminds me of the same people MLK was referring to when he said, quote, "They believe that American society is essentially hospitable to fair play and to steady growth towards a middle-class utopia embodying racial harmony, but unfortunately, this is a fantasy of self-deception and comfortable vanity." I want to go back real quick, though, Dr. Blight, because you talked about the World Cup. The World Cup that captured the imaginations of the entire world when they saw all of these people of color that was playing for all these teams. And ultimately, if you recall, the last two teams, it was Argentina and Spain. And it seemed like the vast majority of the world was rooting for Argentina, or actually against Argentina, right? And why was that? Just give me an explanation if you could guess. If you'll just let them finish the answer.
Spain had the best team. Maybe that's why they were rooting for them.
There's also a racist history that exists as it relates to
Mr. Byer,
Argentina.
you're recognized.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crockett.